students, myself Anjan Baskoa, assistant teacher, Dakshin Nagsagar High School under Bishwanath district of Assam. In this video, I will discuss about equation of trust, the fourth lesson from footprints without feet, a supplementary reader in English for class 10. The chapter with the title Equation of Trust is written by Victor Canning. Victor Canning was a prolific British writer of novels and thrillers. He was born on 16th June 1911 and was died on 21st February 1986. Equation of Trust is also one amongst his well-known thrillers. It is composed of many small and short paragraphs. Therefore, I will read out the pages and will explain its meaning along with word meanings. Let us begin. Everyone thought that Horace Denby was a good and honest citizen. He was about 50 years old and unmarried. He lived with a housekeeper who worried over his health. In fact, he was usually very well and happy except for attacks of hay fever in summer. He made locks and was successful enough in his business to have two helpers. Yes, Horace Denby was good and respectable, but not completely honest. 15 years ago, Horace had served his first and only sentence in prison library. He loved rare and expensive books, so he robbed a safe every year. Each year he planned carefully just what he would do, stole enough to last for 12 months, and secretly brought the books he loved through an agent. Now, walking in the bright July sunshine, he felt sure that this year's robbery was going to be as successful as the others. For 2 weeks, he had been studying the house of sort over Grang, looking at its rooms and electric wiring and its path and its gardens. This afternoon, the two servants who remained in the Grang while the family was in London had gone to movies. Horace saw them go and he felt happy in spite of having tickle of hay fever in his nose. He came out from behind the garden wall, his tools carefully packed in a bag on his back. There were about 15,000 pounds worth of jewels in the Grang safe. If he stole them one by one, he expected to get it at least 5,000. Here are some word meanings. Housekeeper, an individual responsible for the supervision of a house's cleaning staff. Hay fever, an illness that affects the eyes, nose and throat and is caused by breathing in the powder produced by some plants. Sentence, to say officially, sentence, the verb, to say officially in a court of law that somebody is to receive a particular punishment. Rare, existing only in small numbers and therefore valuable or interesting. Expensive, costing a lot of money. Safe, here safe indicates a place where something or somebody is not likely to be in danger or to be lost. Movie, a series of moving pictures recorded with sound that tells a story. Example, films, serials, etc. Tickle, to produce a slightly uncomfortable feeling in a sensitive part of body. Pound, the unit of money in Britain. Example, rupees in India, taka in Bangladesh. Dear students, I have read out the page 20 and gave you the word meanings. Now I will explain it for your better understanding. Horace Denby, a lockmaker who was unmarried, lived with a housekeeper. He made locks and his earnings was sound. People thought him good and honest citizen, but he was not a respectable citizen because once he had served the sentence in prison. Horace was fond of books. He loved to read rare and expensive books. For that he used to rob a safe for a year. From the earnings of robbery he brought books through an agent. The story now moves back to Horace Denby's bygone days. It tells us about how he was arrested by the police and was sentenced in prison. In the month of July, Horace was planning for a new victim. In the meantime, he had selected the house of Sort over Grang. He had collected every data related to that house and visited the same from the garden wall. Behind, with his bags of packed tools, there were none in the house. The family members were on a trip to London and the servants had gone for movies. He was sure that there were a sum of 15,000 pounds jewels in the safe. By the time he was feeling a slight sense of favor. Now page number 21. 5,000 is enough to make him happy for another year. There were three very interesting books coming up for sale in autumn. Now he would get the money he wanted to buy them. He had seen the housekeeper hang the key to the kitchen door on a hook outside. He put on a pair of gloves, took the key and opened the door. He was always careful not to leave any fingerprints. A small dog was lying in the kitchen. It stirred, made a noise and moved its tail in a friendly way. "All right, Sherry," Horace said as he passed. All you had to do to keep dogs quiet was to call them by their right names and show them love. The safe was in the drawing room behind rather a poor painting. Horace wondered for a moment whether he should collect pictures instead of books, but that took up too much room. In a small house, books were better. There was a great bowl of flowers on the table, and Horace felt his nose tickle. He gave a little sneeze and then put out his bag. He carefully arranged his tools and he had 4 hours before the servants returned. The safe was not going to be hard to open. After all, he had lived with locks and safes all his life. The burglar alarm was poorly built. He went into the hall and cut its wires. He came back and sneezed loudly as the smell of the flowers came to him again. How foolish the people when they own valuable things, Horace thought. A magazine article had described this house, giving a plan of all the rooms and a picture of this room. The writer had even mentioned that the painting hid a safe, but Horace found that the flowers were hindering him in his work. He buried his face in his handkerchief. Then he heard a voice from the doorway. "What is it? A cold or hay fever?" Before he could think, Horace said "hay fever" and found himself sneezing again. The voice went on. "You can cure it with a special treatment. You know, if you find out just what plant gives you the disease, I think you had better see a doctor. If you are serious about your work, I heard you from the top of the house just now. Let us discuss its word meanings." The difficult words of page number 21. Autumn, the season of the year between summer and winter. Put on, to dress, to apply something to your body, skin, face, etc. Steer, to move. Sherry, proper noun here. Here, Sherry is the name of the dog. Burglar alarm, an electric device often fixed to a wall that rings a loud bell if somebody tries to enter a building by force. Hinder, to make it difficult for somebody to do something or to happen. Now I will explain the page number 21 for your better understanding. As we come to know that Horace liked to read books, especially new books that had arrived on market. He dreamed over his mission and reached the key was hanged outside the door. Putting his hand gloves, he opened the door and entered into the house from back. He put on gloves in order not to leave any clue. He saw a little dog lying on the floor, which rushed towards him with a sharp noise. But as and when Horace called by his name, it became calm and friendly. Sherry was his name. Horace came to know about the location of the safe from an article published in a magazine. It was in the drawing room behind a painting. A great bowl of flowers was placed on the table. The smell of flowers disturbed him, as we came to know that he was a patient of hay fever. Ignoring all these, he arranged his tools. As Horace was a professional lockmaker and to break a safe was an easy task for him. By the time he had cut the telephone electric wires along with the burglar alarm, Horace covered his face with a handkerchief to get rid of the flower smell. At the moment he had heard a voice from the doorway. Now let us proceed to page number 22. It was quite kindly voice, but one with firmness in it. A woman was standing in the doorway and Sherry was rubbing against her. She was young, quite pretty, and was dressed in red. She walked to the fireplace and straightened the ornaments there. "Down, Sherry," she said. "Anyone would think I had been away for a month." She smiled at Horace and went on. "However, I came back just in time, though I did not expect to meet a burglar." Horace had some hope because she seemed to be amused at meeting him. He might avoid trouble if she treated her the right way. He replied, "I did not expect to meet one of the family." She nodded. "I see. What an inconvenience it is for you to meet me." "What are you going to do?" Horace said. "My first thought was to run." "Of course, you could do that, but I would telephone the police and tell them all about you. Get They had get you at once." The word meanings of page number 22: quiet, not disturbed, peaceful, tender, tending not to talk very much, silence. Pretty, attractive without being very beautiful. Burglar, a person who enters a building illegally in order to steal. At once, in no time, instantly. A sweet voice was heard clearly. A lady was standing in the doorway. She was young, quiet, and pretty, and was dressed in red. Sherry became friendly with her instantly. People She stated that people had thought that she had gone to London, but she returned on that very day, and she did not expect to meet a burglar. Horace felt nervous because he was caught red-handed. The lady may create problem to him, so he started to pursue her. Horace requested the lady to allow him to go home, ignoring all this, but the lady threatened him to inform the police. Page number 23. Horace said, "I would, of course, cut the telephone wires first and then." He hesitated, a smile on his face. "I would make sure that you could do nothing for some time. A few hours would be enough." She looked at him seriously and said, "You hurt me." Horace paused and then said, "I think I was trying to frighten you when I said that." "You did not frighten me," Horace suggested. "It would be nice if you would forget you ever saw me. Let me go." The voice was suddenly sharp. "Why should I? You were going to rob me. If I let you go, you will only rob someone else. Society must be protected from men like you." Horace smiled. "I am not a man who threatens society. I steal only from those who have a lot of money. I steal for a good reason and I hate the thought of prison. She laughed and he begged, thinking that he had persuaded her. Look, I have no right to ask you for anything, but I am desperate. Let me go, and I promise I never do this kind of thing again. I really mean it. She was silent, watching him closely. Then she said, "You are really afraid of going to prison, are not you?" She came over to him, shaking her head. "I have always liked the wrong kind of people." She picked up a silver box from the table and took a cigarette from it. Horace, eager to please her, and seeing that she might help him, him took off his gloves and gave her his cigarette lighter. "You will let me go?" He held the lighter towards her. "Yes, but only if you do something for me. Anything you say." "Before we left for London, I promised my husband to take my jewels to our bank, but I left them here in the safe. I want to wear them to party tonight, so I came down to get them." "But," Horace smiled, "you have forgotten the numbers to open the safe, have not you?" "Yes," replied the lady. "Just leave it to me. I will have them within an hour, but I will have to I will have to break your safe." "Don't worry about that. My husband won't be here for a month, and I will have the safe mended by the time." Word meanings of page number 23. Pause. To stop thinking or doing something for a short time before continuing. Prison. A building where people are kept as a punishment for a crime they have committed, etc. Desperate. Feeling or showing that you have little hope and are ready to do anything without worrying about danger. Take off. To remove something, somebody from the place or a person. Jewels. Precious stones such as ruby, diamond, etc., or pieces of jewelry or ornament that contain precious stones. Mend means to repair something that has been damaged. Horace Denby is seen requesting the lady to allow him to go, but the lady was not agree to let Horace go away. She tricked Horace and started blackmail. She blackmailed Horace that she would inform police and police would arrest him, awarding him sentence in prison. Desperate, Horace made several requests to forgive him and promised that he would never repeat such actions in life. The mysterious lady said that she liked wrong kind of people. She took out a cigarette and eager Horace offered a lighter, removing his hand gloves. Again Horace made a request to the lady to allow him to go away, but the tricky lady told an imaginary story to Horace and asked him to open the safe. She told that her husband had once asked her to take jewels to their bank. She forgot the password of the safe and she needed them to wear in a night party. Horace was happy to do that. He opened the safe without gloves and handed over the jewels to the lady whom he thought the actual owner of the house. The lady promised to mend the safe before the arrival of her husband from London. Horace left the house happily. Page number 24. And within an hour, Horace had opened the safe, given her the jewels, and gone happily away. For 2 days he kept his promise to the kind young lady. On the morning of the third day, however, he thought of books he wanted, and he knew he would have to look for another safe, but he never got the chance to begin his plan. By the noon, a policeman had arrested him for the jewel robbery or at sort of agreeing. His fingerprints, for he had opened the safe without gloves, were all over the room, and no one believed him when he said that the wife of the owner of the house had asked him to open the safe of her. The wife herself, grey-haired, sharp-tongued woman of 60, said that the story was nonsense. Horace is now the assistant librarian in the prison. He often thinking of the charming, clever young lady who was in the same profession and age he was, and who tricked him. He gets very angry when anyone talks about honor among thieves. Word meaning: grey-haired means elderly person. Now let me explain the content of page number 24. Horace kept his promise that he had been made for the lady for 2 days. On the third day, when he was thinking about new books and was planning for a new safe, a policeman came and arrested him for the jewel robbery case at Sotober Crane. The police had found the clue of robbery from his fingerprints that had been found on the safe and around the room. When Horace told the police that he had not robbed but had broken the safe as per the order of the owner of wife, the actual wife of the owner of the house, who was a grey-haired lady, who told that the story is nonsense and baseless. Thus, Horace had to serve in the prison as an assistant librarian. Horace was tricked by the beautiful lady, who too was a jewel thief. This is a nice story I had explained for you. I hope you will understand and like this video. Thank you.